as a manager, I always wanted to clone my best coaching moments. And I felt like I was on a recorder for each rep I would talk to. I'd meet with each member of my team. I had over 15 on my team. Every week I'd have one-on-ones and we'd go through their pipeline. And a lot of times it was,
Hello, Shawn. Welcome to the show.
hey, Joe, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. The plan is within the next 20 minutes, anyone watching this video, probably kind of checking out Call June, trying to figure out what you guys do, how you help. They're going to better understand kind of why you started Call June. Like, what was your insight? Because I see from your LinkedIn, there's plenty there of why you would have some insights and how Call June is helping and kind of what problem you're solving in terms of like what does today look like for a lot of those field reps. So with that, again, welcome. Why don't you give us a quick version of like what is Call June?
This really started out as a big heart for people in the field that have so much to do and they need to capture a note. You're trying to log into your laptop between calls and you've got to do two-factor authentication. Then if you want to add something in there may be 12 required fields. Pretty soon you just say, forget it. And then maybe try to update everything on a Friday when your manager chases you down. So this was some relief of leveraging this new use case for conversational AI, where somebody can make a phone call and talk about the sales call that they just had, because most salespeople enjoy talking, and particularly if you're driving or traveling a lot, you've got time, windshield time that you can be on the phone. So this was a way of making a phone call, recording what was happening in your pipeline, getting next steps scheduled. And then June, our digital agent who is talking with the reps, can be guided to ask certain questions around the opportunity. And that was born out of me having a chance to manage salespeople and realize how many times they failed to ask some of those great qualifying questions or, budget, authority, timing, or follow a sales process like spin or medic or challenger. And that I could have June prompt for these questions and then fill that into the CRM as well. So
Yeah. And I think that's something you and I both have in common is that we both have carried a bag. And if we're really honest with ourselves, maybe sometimes weren't quite as good as we should have been about putting the stuff in the CRM, and then had been on the other side of it of managing people that were supposed to put the stuff in the CRM, and we're going, why is it not there? And being on those kind of coaching one-on-one sessions, I had this happen to me so many times that I'm asking questions that I think should be obvious, like, "You must know this." And for whatever reason, it didn't dawn on them because they were in the heat of the Zoom call or whatever it was, and they go, "Oh, damn, you're right. I should have asked about XYZ, or I should have found out X," you know? So it's really interesting that you and I have that in common, and I so see it, right, in terms of that it's so important what's in the CRM, but it's also, such a burden for reps typically that you probably saw the same things, not always, but often some of the very best reps are the ones that are worst at putting the right stuff in the CRM.
yes, my last team that I was managing, my top guy was just knocking it out of the park on a regular basis, and he was one of the worst at updating Salesforce. So a lot of times, I would be calling and catching him in between flights and getting updates. And I would have a meeting with leadership coming up, and I knew he wasn't going to enter those notes in Salesforce. So a good half hour of my week was just updating stuff that he probably should have had in there anyways. And I was considering hiring somebody out of the Philippines just to call him daily, get his updates, and enter him into Salesforce because we needed that. Management wanted to know where these deals were, and they would change week to week based on conversations, and our probability would change, and that would all roll up to the forecast. And the last thing you want to do is have an overly optimistic deal in the pipeline, and you've just learned that the decision is going to be tabled for 60 days, and leadership doesn't know that. So you're exactly right. Sometimes the best reps are the ones that aren't data jockeys, and
Yeah.
and getting
It's so
information into CRMs can be tough. There's
the
more and
day
more
the day in
fields.
the life was before Call June. A lot of times good reps just don't, or many reps, let's say, just don't put everything they should put in the CRM. Let's talk now about how that kind of flips with Call June. You take that same guy, what would his life look like now that he has access to Call June?
Much better. So, yeah, as a lot of salespeople do, they prefer to talk than enter notes or get into technical aspects of a user interface and the different windows to open up and enter information. But ask him a question, he'll talk and give you lots of details. So that's the beauty of June. So, driving in between calls, waiting for a flight, even, running an errand, waiting for his wife to do something, come to the car. He can make a phone call and in 5 minutes update his opportunities and then get asked some of those questions that I would typically ask. So, what I really love about this is, as a manager, I always wanted to clone my best coaching moments. And I felt like I was on a recorder for each rep I would talk to. I'd meet with each member of my team. I had over 15 on my team. Every week I'd have one-on-ones and we'd go through their pipeline. And a lot of times it was the basic questions you're talking about of, do we know who the competition is? Do we know their decision-making process? Do we know if they don't take action, what's it going to cost them? So these are all critical components to closing a sale, right? Knowing that buyer's motivation, knowing, what it's going to mean for them and their daily life. And those questions are the heart and soul of selling, I think, where it takes us out of our own shoes and puts us into their shoes. And we start acting with more intelligence, more competency, because our degree of compassion and understanding has gone up when we consider it from their viewpoint. So, why not bake some of those great questions into a tool like June? So she's calling and getting basics on maybe a new opportunity. So, when and who and what's the next steps and scheduling that. And then those critical questions of what does it matter to them? What's the best approach to take for doing that?
Welcome back, Shawn. How are you and what are we doing today?
I'm doing good. I just had a great call with Riverside Medical Group. I met with Leonard Fusco, the medical director, and I need to open a new opportunity.
Nice work, Shawn. What would you like to name this new opportunity with Riverside Medical Group?
Mobile cardio check.
Got it. Mobile cardio check? What challenge or need did Leonard bring up during your call?
They're interested in our portable ECG machine, and we need to get 5 of them out for their 3 offices.
Perfect, thanks. What's driving their interest? Are they having issues with their current equipment?
Yeah, their old equipment is bulky. It takes up a whole room. So that was the idea, is really kind of leverage a sales manager at hand. And so then my top rep could just call whenever he has time right afterwards or in between and before all those details drop out of his mind. And the nice thing about this technology is with the large language models, they're getting better at higher reasoning. And so they're asking better questions. And we train June on the latest sales methodology, on psychology. We made her emotionally intelligent. And then we also gave her a memory. So if we're talking about a deal that we've already debriefed with her last week, she remembers that. So we don't have to explain it over. And then she can ask pertinent questions from that standpoint.
Yeah, I
So for
listened to some of the demos and kind of blew me away that I bet there's a percentage of people that could be fooled and would think that the person is actually speaking to an assistant, like a real human assistant. It's that real, that natural, that kind of personable, I guess. So you've done a nice job there. And to me, part of the power of it is that you open up that Salesforce opportunity, it's almost daunting, intimidating, right? There's so much to fill out, and
yes,
it's and you sometimes you're filling out the stuff that doesn't matter as much at the expense of the important stuff.
agreed.
Whereas June, that it's this kind of one bite at a time kind of thing is really kind of a natural. It seems like that a rep is just going to unload on whatever the topic is and go on to the next one. So really, I totally get it, and it's powerful in terms of like you saw on the I saw on the website it said something like versus a rep putting something in their tiny device at an airport or something. And
Right.
tiny is right? Like, to be able to give that kind of information on a phone, that form factor, it doesn't really work. So tell me more about, because I am intrigued, because I wonder, you probably didn't start with that part of the sales methodologies and really helping the rep almost get trained as they go along. So, can you kind of expand on that a little bit? That, yeah, it's a great way to get the right data into the CRM, which, by the way, will be a gold mine for AI as AI is trying to figure out organizationally what's happening with all the reps. You need all that data in there. But tell me more about the training aspect in terms of how CallJune is actually helping reps kind of get like, maybe that you won't even need to be asked as much, or we'll be ready for the question the next time. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we're all human, and in the heat of the battle, sometimes even our best practice questioning can drop right out of our mind, and we can forget. And so that's where we need reminders, and that's a lot of times what sales managers are doing is serving as sort of that stopgap, making sure that things don't slip between the cracks. So we can code June for that to prompt for any sales methodology or any exact questions. And that would have saved she would have saved me a ton of time when I was selling. So really, this is a tool that I would design for anybody carrying a bag, but also for sales leadership. And as a rep, it would have saved me all that data entry time and frustration getting it in, but also more accuracy because I'd be capturing it while it's fresh in my mind. And then those detailed questions that any good sales leader would want asked in a sale. And sometimes we forget. So I don't know if any of the time you were selling, sometimes you'd have somebody with you or your manager with you, and they get an extra set of eyes and remember to ask this, or ask the client another question in this area that I wasn't thinking of. And that's what we wanted to code into June, was those great questions to help point my thinking and my focus in the best practice of the sales consulting. And so that I think, you know, having reps more attuned to that and having that training reinforced on a daily basis is going to make them better sellers. They're going to ask better questions. They're going to identify better with the prospect, gain more trust. So ultimately, the real, golden nugget is not just that it's a great new technology and it's wonderful and it saves us time and it's convenient, but it more than pays for itself when we look at what it can do to win rates. So imagine even just a 10% or a 5% increase in the win rate for most organizations. It's quantum level increase, and it's hard to find any other tool out there that's going to provide that kind of ROI.
Yeah, for sure. And related is that, just because they're asking the right questions, thinking the right way. But I think also because you and I both have this experience being on the in those one-on-ones, having you talking through, and sometimes you're talking about the stuff that doesn't matter as much, right? And so that this will, if those questions are answered already, you can talk about the stuff that matters more, right? So that's really great. So, and just I want the viewers to understand kind of what the world looks like for the rep. That literally they probably just have June as a saved number in their phone, and they go bam, and it literally is making a phone call, and June answers, and June would know it's me, Joe, or how does that work?
Yeah, so there's two different authentication factors. One is most people are calling from the same phone. So as soon as that phone number hits, we're searching a database to verify. And then she knows, your name. She knows past conversations, things you've talked about. If you mentioned it's your anniversary on Saturday and you want to be reminded on Friday, she'll remember that. But before you even begin, she's going to ask for a passcode. So right now we're using a 5-digit code.
Hi, Shawn. This is June. Thanks for calling in. Please provide your 5-digit access code so we can get started.
Hi, June. It's 12345.
Welcome back, Shawn. How are you and what are we doing today?
You enter that correctly. So between the code and your phone number, then you're verified and secure. And she goes right into capturing the call and then parsing that data out and then summarizing the data so that what gets put in Salesforce isn't just a big data dump of a transcript. Because you're right. sales reps and all of us, when we're doing a download, we don't always do it sequentially or in logical order. We can be all over the place. So June takes that all over the place, parses it out, and takes each section and then summarizes it well. And a lot of us are loving how AI does that. So really, the concise and salient points are ending up in Salesforce rather than just ballooning it with a lot of data that somebody has to go through and figure out.
Awesome. And I know that you have, as of today anyway, uh, uh, someone can just call in and play with June, essentially, can have a conversation. Is that live right now? Is there like a number on your website?
It is, and there is a number on the site, and that's sort of a demo version. So that's two purposes. Is one, she'll go through a mock role play. So pretending that you're a rep, you've completed a call. She'll ask you a few questions about that, and then she'll text you a link that has a summary of all that information. So I even have a friend who's working for a company. He's one of the main sales guys, and they don't have a CRM yet. So he asked me if he could use that in the interim, and I said sure. So that's one way people can call and demo it. The other side of that is if you want to ask and talk to her about her own capabilities and next steps and how that all works, she'll take the call in that direction. So she's almost acting like a sales development representative and a demo instance at the same time. We even have an instance of her on our main line. So there's receptionist June, there's demo June, and then our production is call June.
Oh, very cool. And part of what I love about this, Sean, is that yeah. Go God love the students at MIT and Stanford who are cooking up the next startups. Like, let 'em they're doing great things. But what I really love is when AI is paired with, like, an insight that someone from who's been there knows that there's a problem that needs to be solved and knows that this is the way to solve it, and I think that's what you've done with Call June. So what is it? It's the website is CallJune.ai, is that right?
That's right.
And so what's the best way someone should just go to the website, check it out? Is there any kind type of customer that you're looking for that you think that will see the most value from something like this?
Yeah, typically, I mean, field sellers is the easiest low hanging fruit. We wanted to target people that are usually not behind their desk. So they're running around from call to call. So that would be the easiest use case. But any salesperson that has to enter CRM data on the regular would be a good candidate. But this is an added benefit because there will be more and more AI where you can voice into CRM. But if you're doing it on an app, you're pinching a tiny screen and it doesn't always parse or add that information in accurately. And if you're at a computer, theoretically, you could type it all. So those we'll see. But I think most people would rather talk their notes and be walked through a coaching session than just enter the data. So
Yeah,
those are
and honestly, as you say that, it makes sense, but when you hear the demo, it really makes sense in
yeah.
terms of, like, it's just these gentle questions almost in a gentle voice
Hmm.
that it is like if each one of these reps actually had their own assistant who's just on standby, kind of helping them be their best selves kind of thing. So congrats on what you have. I'm
Thank you.
excited to see where you go. And thank you for being on the show. Anything else you want to add in terms of how people can look you up or anything like that?
Yeah, the website's very easy. I've got a scheduling link if someone wants to talk to me and just brainstorm and see if it's a fit or not. Or if they're trying to build their own voice AI and want to do it and set up their own tools, I can help give some guidance on that. It is possible. It's a little bit sticky, but that's getting hold of me through the website is probably the easiest way. Also on the website, we have a few videos to kind of walk people through and the demo line. So proof is in the pudding. Call her up, talk to her, get a feel for it, see the summaries that she produces, and we're happy to meet with any and everybody and let them know best ways to leverage this latest leap in conversational AI.
Fantastic, super helpful, and I definitely recommend people check out those videos at least because that's where you kinda have a light bulb moment of like, "Oh, this just makes sense." Thanks, Sean. Hope you have a great afternoon.
All right, thanks, Joe.